think a failure for a lot of business owners think they have to do everything, touch everything, be there, double check everything. That's not necessary. Figure out the pieces that you truly enjoy and outsource that amount. And once you have put enough away for your savings, invest in your business enough so that you actually enjoy your business. Everything else after that should be really whatever your heart's desire.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we're going to be going in a different direction. We're going to be focusing on a little bit of your personal finance side. Let's just take a peek into your dirty underwear drawer and, see what's going on there. I love having this conversation. Those of you who've been listening to me for a while know that my brand is built on the idea of helping people to create generational wealth. You can go to our About page. My team will link that up in the show notes for this episode. To read up on the story, but essentially my grandfather left Nazi Germany when he was 11 years old with just his dad. He lost his mom and twin siblings in the war. Fast forward many years, business owner, a little bit of success, got together with four cousins, bought an apartment building on the west side of Manhattan. Fast forward many years later than that, and I am a young 21-year-old, and I'm looking to buy my first house. I got started really young. I was 19 when I became a dad. So I was looking to become a homeowner, and went to my mother and said, how do I pay for a down payment on a house? Sounds like a lot to have to save, some, I don't know what it was at the time, $30,000-$40,000 I needed. And she said, well, your grandfather has been selling off the units in this building, and, turning into a co-op, and he's earmarked the proceeds of these sales to give each of his 36 grandchildren the down payment of their first home. So the gift that I got from my grandfather through the work that he did through his life to create that and make it possible for me really accelerated my financial journey. It allowed me to save in my 20s for my retirement. It allowed me to have an asset that appreciated when I went through my divorce and I sold the house, fully funded my daughter's college funds. So there's a lot of, it was the gift that kept on giving. So I'm really passionate about generational wealth and not just solving your business challenges, but solving it for a purpose, right? Like, what are you going to do with the cash that gets thrown off from your business? And for that reason, I'm excited to have Randall Avery in the room with us today. Randall Avery is a CFP, a CFA. I think it's certified financial planner and certified financial analyst or something like that, and is a principal owner of Deasil Wealth Management, an advisory firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, with over 15 years of experience in finance, accounting, and investment analysis. He specializes in helping practice owners and families achieve financial independence through strategic planning and personalized asset management. And I think we're going to have a great conversation. So, Randall, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on here and especially to talk about finances.
Awesome. So, we talked about some options of which direction to take this conversation when we started, but let's just start with the beginning, right? Like, how in the world did you get into financial analysis, financial planning, or advisory services that you do? What did that journey look like for you? What makes you passionate about it?
Yeah. So my journey, like many financial planners, you usually don't hop into financial planning. I started off my career in internal audit. So, checks and balances, understanding processes improvement, probably related to a lot of the accounting work that you've done for certain clients. Love the checks and balances, but I still love finance. So I did kind of financial FP&A, financial plan analysis for a couple of large corporations in the Atlanta metro area. But for me, it didn't have a soul. I wanted to work with individuals. I wanted to go directly to the impact of the client. So I decided to go into personal financial planning, but I still love business. So that's why I specialize my financial planning for business owners, because there's unique challenges that you've discussed on many of your episodes of being a business owner and creating, financial security and wealth for yourself.
Yeah, love it. And interesting journey that you've taken. I'm on that journey myself right now. So trying to help people create generational wealth, but I decided to solve the business challenge first. So we actually have a fractional CFO division where we do FP&A all day long, right? That's essentially what we do for our clients in the CFO side. So FP&A is financial planning and analysis, for those of you who didn't catch it before when we shared it, when Randall mentioned it before. So, Randall, when it comes to wealth creation, wealth management, personal finance. I think there's a journey that we take, right? And it's from living paycheck to paycheck to having more, having a little bit of abundance, and then using that to then leverage your wealth journey. So what do you think about, I mean, let's start in the early stages. We've got a business owner who's doing okay, right? But there's hills and valleys, right? Like there, some really good months and some really poor months. Even my really large clients, they might be doing $800,000 a month, and then they might have a $250,000 a month, and it's like, whoa, because all their expenses are based off of that $800,000 a month business. Take it down to the solo practitioner doing 20, 30,000 a month. It's easy to have a month where that's light, and then there's a struggle because you've committed all these costs to it. So let's start there with just how do you help your clients deal with uneven income that comes through business ownership?
Yeah, I think number one thing I think you touched on a lot on your episodes is lifestyle creep. When you received a $50,000 check in a week, or you receive $200,000 in any given month, you may think, wow, that's a big number in my bank account. That's all mine to spend. So there's an element of lifestyle creep. But something that we don't discuss is there's business creep as well. Once you start getting a year of $800,000, a million, you may think, well, every year is going to be that way. Therefore, I need the staff. I need to have support services that leverages that $1 million. But as we know, that doesn't happen every single year. So I think the first thing is once you receive those big cash flows, once you become, like you said, profitable and able to pay for your lifestyle and maybe some of the nice things in life, do not automatically just bump up your lifestyle. I think that's a lot of practice owners fail is when that happens to them.
I used to listen to Dave Ramsey a long time ago, many, many moons ago. And one of the things that I loved that he talked about was how, doctors, lawyers, anybody who goes to school for a long time for their profession, when you finish school and you suddenly have that degree and you go out and get your first job, it's you all of a sudden feel like you need to have a flashy car. You need to you need to go on flashy vacations. You need to be able to post on social to show people that all that hard work paid off. And the reality is that you're carrying around a mortgage payment and student loans, right? And if you do that right out of the gate, those student loans will hang around your neck for 30 plus years, probably longer than a home mortgage. Whereas if you took all of your new income that you didn't need before and just spent 2 or 3 years chunking down on on that debt, you'd eliminate it. And now, after holding your breath for 3 more years, suddenly you have a new lease on life, right? And I think that at every stage of success, business ownership, personal success, whatever it is, there's always a period where you can pause and just enjoy the view from where you're at, and you don't have to constantly be scaling and growing. With my coaching clients, I share with them. So I don't know if you've been a listener of our show, but I'm also a paramedic. And one of the things that I share is like, we can learn from our own heart. So our heart beats in a certain uniform fashion, right? Every single beat is the same. And it starts with a beat at the top of the atrium, and it takes blood that comes in from the body and it pushes it down into the ventricles, which then the ventricles push out to the body, right? And the ventricles are the strongest part of our heart. But the key to the heart's success is it needs to have a resting phase where the blood comes, and it's through gravity, right? The pressure is not strong enough to get all the blood into the heart that you need. So there's a refractory phase when the heart rests, and it's brief, but it happens, and the heart fills with blood. And if it didn't have that refractory phase, then you wouldn't be pushing anything around. Like basically your heart would be pumping, but no blood would be circulating, and you would die. So I think we can learn from our own hearts, and the way that it works is like you have to have this phase of pausing and resting and just allowing the money to flow into your business so that you can then enjoy what you've just created, and you can reap the rewards, and you can catch up on, maybe you took on some debts in the process of scaling, like you can pay those off, catch up on that, build a little bit of a war chest, and then you can always scale later, right? Like it's not this, there isn't a race. it's funny because I started at 19 years old. I got married and I was in a race. Like I thought that there was like some sort of reward for achieving things quickly. I had this vision of being retired at 45, right? Like, that was that was my thing that I was going to do. So I had kids early and now I'm a 46-year-old grandpa. But I also ended up getting divorced and going for round two with my wife now. So I've got little ones at home. So started all over again. So there went that plan. But there isn't a rush. We shouldn't always be feeling like we need to, run to that next stage, because there's something to be said about enjoying the view from where you just got to. Um, all right, so that's kind of addressing this concept or what to do with somebody who's got uneven income. Let's say you've now solved this problem. You're starting to actually throw off some extra money from your business. And now you're starting to think, okay, what do I do with this? And this is interesting because I work with clients on the CFO side of the business where they're doing millions in revenue. And I mean, usually when they come in, they're below where they need to be from a profit margin perspective, and we unlock that for them. So we take somebody who maybe they're making 500,000 in profit, and we just help them to make that 2 million, right? But now all of a sudden they've got 2 million in income. Okay, $700,000 goes for taxes unless you're working with us in our special tax planning strategy sessions where we help you eliminate that. And I never thought that was possible, by the way. When Donald Trump stood in front of the audience in his debate back in 2016 or whatever it was, and he said, I pay zero taxes because I'm smart. A lot of people who didn't understand it thought that he was just being, Donald Trump. But the reality is that there are ways to eliminate the tax bill. So that was a little detour. If you want to know more information about that, we do a tax assessment. You can find out from my team. Go to just send an email to info@dreambuilderfinancial.com, and they'll be happy to hook you up with the details of that. It's a guaranteed result assessment, so you get your money back if we don't find you those tax savings. Anyway, you're making 2 million, you're paying 700,000 or nothing in taxes. Your lifestyle, maybe, even if you elevate your lifestyle, takes 500,000. So now you've got essentially 1 million of discretionary, right? What am I going to do with it? And that's where the first dilemma is, like, do I reinvest in my business? Do I put money in the stock market? Do I become a landlord and go into real estate? So Randall, this is probably a prime time when you're getting clients in the door, right? Like they just started to focus on maxing out their 401k. And this is the opportunity, right?
So let's start off with this goes with all practices by specialty. You're not going to get a tech multiple when you sell your practice. So being independently wealthy from your practice should be a primary goal and objective, especially when you have excessive cash flow. So first of all, you have to plan just like a W-2, a 401k employee. You have to put money aside in different retirement plans. And because we're business owners, there's great retirement plans out there for you, whether it's a solo 401k, a SEP IRA, a simple IRA. All those different things are just for you to hack money to the side. So the first goal should be independently wealthy from your practice. The second thing is you have to sit back and ask yourself is, what type of practice do I want to run? Do I want to run a practice where I work 80 hours a week? Do I want to run a practice where I only work 20 hours a week? And use that excess money to staff that up to a certain level or to get the necessary systems in place so that you can actually run the practice that you enjoy. Because a lot of times, this is unfortunately, especially with attorneys, you guys create a job that you don't enjoy. Figure out what aspects of the job that you enjoy. You don't have to see, I think a failure for a lot of business owners think they have to do everything, touch everything, be there, double check everything. That's not necessary. Figure out the pieces that you truly enjoy and outsource that amount. And once you have put enough away for your savings, invest in your business enough so that you actually enjoy your business. Everything else after that should be really whatever your heart's desire, whether it's giving, whether it's pouring back into your family, all those different things.
I love that. I forget to think about like where somebody might be in their own personal situation right now where they might be doing really well financially, but they're still boots in the ground. They're still, up late at night dealing with issues in the office. And you're absolutely correct. At that level, you should have somebody that's essentially holding the responsibility of everything that's happening in the business. And it's optional for you to show up. I talked about our 100K per month workshop at the beginning of did I talk about our 100K workshop at the beginning of this? I didn't. Let me take a quick moment to promo that here for you guys. So, we have a 2-day in-person workshop series where we help law firm owners unlock $100,000 a month in revenue in their practice, and profitable revenue, right? We're focused on profitability. My brand is Profit with Law, right? Like we want to make sure you're making money with that too. So what we do in 2 days is we help you understand what the business has to look like for you to produce this. And we help you map out the strategy and the plan to get there in 12 months or less. So many people have spent 5, 10, 15 years trying to figure this out, and they haven't figured it out. And it's to your point, it's because most likely you're approaching this from being a lawyer and trying to step into it as you being the lawyer, when in reality, you need to step into the role of business owner, or even better, investor. So there is a cycle that happens where when you step into the role of business owner, you recognize that the business grows through leverage of other people's time, and you start to hire people around you to do the job. When you look at it as an investor, you're no longer looking at yourself as the CEO. You're now looking at yourself as the outside person who's just simply like, if I have, you know, stock in ExxonMobil, then I'm going to collect a dividend every single quarter from ExxonMobil. And I do not need to step foot in the office at ExxonMobil. I'm just an owner of the business. I'm not actually somebody who executes on anything. So that's the investor. So if you think of this journey of you becoming the business owner and then becoming the investor, it's a far cry from what you are as just the attorney in the business. So when you are unlocking this success, what happens is you finally learn to be the business owner. You put people around you, but you're still the one who's holding the bag. The responsibility stops by you, and everything rises up to you. So the biggest problems and challenges rise up to you. How do you navigate from being the business owner to stepping completely out and being the investor? And that happens, then you could be the board of directors, right? Then you become the Warren Buffett of your business. You think Warren Buffett's worrying about what rail car is on the tracks of his rail business? No. So he's retired now anyway, officially. So that's a whole nother thing. Bless that man. He's pretty incredible. But my point is that, to Daryl's point, when you start achieving levels of financial success, you should be looking at, how do I buy back my time? How do I take the next step in execution of stepping further and further out of the business? So we do this 2-day workshop. If you want to sign up for it, go to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. That's Law Firm Growth, LFG 2026. The last event that we had, one of the attendees told me that when she was a paralegal before she became an attorney, she worked in a law firm, and the owner of the firm would come in once every 2 weeks to pick up his check. And everybody would be like, "Oh, Mr. So and so is here, and he's here to pick up his check." And he'd walk around the office and shake hands with everybody and catch up with them on how their family's doing. His visit would be 2 hours long, and he'd be out of there. And that was his entire involvement in the business. And she was like, "That's what I want to be. Like, at some point, my goal is to be that. I want to walk into my office and I want to collect my check, catch up with people on their personal lives, and I want to walk out." And that's kind of like when you're thinking about it. Maybe you don't want it to that extreme, but you probably would be okay if you'd only had to work 20 hours a week. You'd probably be okay if you only had to work 10 hours a week. You'd still feel fulfilled, but you'd have more time to spend with your kids, to spend in the gym, to spend on hobbies. I mean, God knows I would love to sit down and read a book for an hour every single day. Now I listen to Audible for an hour every single day in chunks, 10-minute chunks, in the car, on the go, whenever I am. But at some point, I'd love to just sit down on the couch in the morning with a coffee after everybody's out of the house and I got nothing going on, and I'm just chilling and reading a book for an hour. That's me. So think about what you want, and that should be the next thing. The moment that you start to have some success, how do I buy back some of that so that I could create this life for me?
And I think the elephant in the room that nobody really talks about is, we say trust is the currency of business. But that goes inside your businesses. The problem for most entrepreneurs, most business owners, you have to learn how to trust employees to do the task. You have to be patient with them, understanding that they're going to not do it the way you want it to do it. And it may even mess up sometimes. And that is hard. That is so hard to say, hey, employee, do what I think I'm great at, and then allowing them to run with it. And that's where I think a lot of business owners mess up. It's really like the e-myth issue.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's really, really true. So many people struggle with this. And there's a very simple way for you to be able to delegate with the feeling that you have confidence in what they're doing. And this, what I tell my clients is, show them, watch them, and then let them go. Right. And it's basically, I'm going to demonstrate to you how this has to happen. And I'll show it to you as many times as needed until you say, okay, I've got it. Let me try it. And then I'm going to watch you do it. So I'm going to be there over your shoulder. And at first, I might be jumping in and saying, no, no, don't do that. And then I start pulling back a little bit. And then I'm not doing anything. I'm just observing. And when I feel like you've got it, now I let you do it on your own. Now, when I let you do it on your own, I'm still auditing the process. I'm still auditing your work. I want to make sure it's good. And at some point in that process, I've audited it enough times that I now am confident you've got it. And I can step away and let go of that component. Um, there can always be a level of oversight. Ideally, if as the investor in the business, quarterly. One meeting quarterly to get an update from your team on how the business is going should be all that's needed for you to understand what's happening and make sure that it's marching on the right path of the agenda of where you're trying to take the business.
And that
But it
takes
takes a
two
long time to get
things.
there.
Yeah, it takes two things. It takes time and it takes systems. And a lot of practitioners want to do their practice. They don't
Yes.
want to invest the time and the systems in place to, they call it trust but verify. Verifying is an art. And as my background in internal audit, it is necessary.
Yeah, the truth is that what you have to recognize is that you need an operator, right? Like you need somebody who's going to oversee other people and make sure things are getting done. You call it a COO, call it an office manager, call it a business manager. There's a lot of different titles thrown around for this person, but essentially it's the person who is very organized, who can stay on top of things and make sure that things are happening. And it's really hard early on because you can't necessarily afford that person in the early stages, right? But as you grow and as you start to have other people do the work, that affordability equation changes. And it really doesn't have to take that long. If you're an attorney, which is what our listeners are, right? Um, when you hire an attorney and get that attorney fully booked, you should then be in the position to have this operator hired because that attorney should be bringing at least 1 million in revenue into your business. Call it $100,000 months just to make it easy, right? Um, and if you're spending, $10,000, $15,000 on marketing, $10,000, $15,000 on your attorney, and then you have a paralegal and you have a receptionist or a salesperson, right? Just throw in a few jobs. You're spending another, 30, 35 on payroll, and then you spend 10 on overhead. You still have plenty there to spend another 10 or 15 on a COO, an operator, somebody who's gonna manage the business and really free you up so that you can either go live your life or focus on what's next for your business. Either one of those could be highly valuable. Randall, I want to kind of like take a shift here. And I want to just talk about the investing side. Stock market's not for everybody. Um, there's, and I don't mean like, okay, you put money in the 401k, you do all that, right? Like, but there's money left where your investment journey can take many different paths. And I've been I want to try all of them so I can get here and I can have a podcast and I can tell people like, this is how you can be successful in this, and this. So, my wife and I, we've been landlords. We had real estate. We had tenants in it. We went through that process. Real estate went up in value. We got the capital appreciation too. Wonderful journey. I now have fun on the side doing option trading just for the fun of it. I get just enough to be dangerous and not not enough to be a pro. But I just put a new roof on my house, paid for through my option trading activity, right? Like, and there's so many different places where somebody can go and take their money and invest it. Um, And what's interesting is that, I have these clients who have this level of success, and they're not doing anything with the money. It's sitting parked in savings accounts. It's, it's just because they're afraid of putting it into another basket that they're not familiar with. Um, Even reinvesting in their firm might not be the path that they want to go. And I think what I'm looking for is maybe some help from you and how you help your clients to look at this and analyze it and understand the potential that you have in front of you and what your life can look like. One of my clients recently told his friend, he said, if I had met Moshe 15 years ago, I'd be $15 million richer. And I think the reality is that what I unlocked for him was $1 million a year in his business at the time, right? But he actually would probably be 50, 60, $70 million richer because I would have helped him take that million each year and do something with it rather than rather than just keeping it in a bank account. So I'm curious, and you might not help clients do alternative investing in different buckets, but how do you help them navigate that process of, okay, I've got some success, I've got some money in the bank, but now I need to believe that there is a next move for me to take and that I'm not afraid of taking it and I have the confidence to do that.
So let's first start by saying all the boxes are checked. Um, Financially independent from my practice, check. I've completely invested in my practice so that I enjoy what I do day in and day out, check. So all those are taken care of. Now we have an excess $500,000 spinning off every year, and it's just looking at us back in the bank account. So this is a very exciting place to be in. What we don't discuss is business owners, our business is like a drug. We get off on it, it gives us a high, it gives us a thrill. And unfortunately, investing in the stock market, real estate, even options trading is not the same type of high. And you're going to just drown yourself in that. And some may say is not that lucrative unless you go all in and really get lucky or just double down into it. So, what I recommend is find another business, maybe adjacent to law practice. I've seen people go into tech law services, outsource things. Think of another type of business that you're interested in where you can, dump some money into it. It's not going to affect you're independently wealthy. So that's check the box. Now, where can we put money elsewhere to start another business to get that same type of high? But now you're more of an investor role and not having to go through the day-to-day grind. You might do it for a couple months, but that's the only way you can really scratch that itch and also give you a high enough return on your investment to make it worthwhile. Because the other things, they're just a time suck, to be honest with
Randall, I love this idea, and I love this way of thinking. And first of all, I would strongly encourage somebody to decide what it is that they want to get involved in, and then see if there's an existing business they can buy rather than starting from scratch. Getting from If you think of like a freight train, right? Getting from 0 to like 5 miles per hour might take it like 20 minutes, right? But then going from 5 miles an hour to 30 or 40 takes it just a couple of minutes. And then from 40 to 60, just seconds, right? It's getting off the ground is the hardest part. And that's why so many practitioners sit in their practice for 5, 10, 15 years before they figure out how to get it from just being them to being some other people on the team and getting to, from 30,000 months to 8 to $100,000 months. Um, but knowing what now that you're sitting in this position and you have 500,000 coming in, and I think 500,000 is very light, right? Like you're probably going to have more than that, but let's just say it's 500,000 a year coming in, and you start building this war chest and you have money available. You got to ask yourself, how would you start this business, even if you started it from scratch? Would you step into it as the practitioner, or would you just build a team from the get-go, right? And you would build a team from the get-go, right? Like that, it's just obvious that that's what you would do, and you wouldn't be the one doing the doing. You would just be the one overseeing it. And then I ask our listeners to then understand and reflect back on your business right now. Because if you're not there, and you're not operating from that lens, now, yes, you might not have the capital, so we have to solve that problem. But recognizing that once you're there, you would invest capital in order to achieve the result rather than doing it yourself. Sweat equity is not the way that you would build your next business. So why are we trying to build our business that way right now? But anyway, that's just a little detour because I think that when you start thinking of it that way, it kind of makes a lot of sense.
So, and also I'd like to add on to that. So we talked about purchasing business, maybe starting a business, but also I believe when you give back to your community, whatever cause, it could be for the arts, it could be for the sciences, whatever, that's a bet on society where an investor can get a high on as well. It's not going to put more money back in your pocket. But what we're really looking for is to scratch that itch of restlessness that we get once we reach a certain level of success. And we've created the system. So that's the key thing. I don't know too many lawyers have a lot of free time, but but that hopefully that is the goal for you to get to that point, and then you scratch that itch in other ways.
Yeah, I love it. Um, what would you suggest to somebody to if they want to explore this, right? Like maybe we have a listener who's in this place right now where like, hey, I've got my business to where I want it to go. I'm not trying to make it bigger, but I want to try something else, right? Is there a book you'd guide them to read? Is there a process you'd guide them to look at or follow? Are you helping your clients with this specifically in navigating starting another business or buying a business?
It's interesting. A book where, you know, I believe so. If you made it to the point where you have the bandwidth to start another business, and you're an attorney, you probably have the delegation skills, you have the finding talent skills, you have the ability to sell and find opportunities. I honestly think at that point you follow your heart, and you should have enough intuition within you to find that next business opportunity. You probably have it spinning around in your head. You just haven't flipped the switch to give yourself permission to do so. I think if I'm talking to that type of archetype of a business owner, specifically an attorney.
Yeah. I'll share a book that I think would be really helpful for our listeners who are in this mode. And I actually think it'll be really helpful for them to read anyway. Like if you're thinking about at some point selling your practice, your business, it's called Main Street Millionaire. It's by Cody Sanchez. Cody is I mean, she's a great personality. So just check out her YouTube channel. You'll get drawn in and you will not come back out. Like it's just she's wonderful. But if you want ideas of businesses to, buy or start, she's into Main Street businesses. She's into, like plumbing, roofing, the laundromat down the block and, stuff like that. And it'll just open your eyes to the idea that or fact that there's so many small businesses around. And if you bring the skill set that you had in building your business to another operation, whatever it is, you're going to add value there that wasn't there before and probably elevate it beyond whatever it is that you're buying. But you're buying a functional business. It's profitable, it's cash flowing, because that's how it's priced. So, somebody who's not positively cash flowing in that business is not going to be able to sell it. So the fact that you're actually buying it means it's already a machine that's making money. And now you get to play with it and try to figure out how to make it even more. But you're not the one doing the doing. Like if you're buying a plumbing business, you're not the plumber. You have a plumber working for you. And that's the idea of like what this is. But her book really walks you through the entire process of how do you go through, finding the business and getting a letter of intent in place and confidentiality agreement and then analyzing the business structure, making an offer, and then going through your due diligence. It's a very interesting and eye-opening process, and I thought that book was really well written to guide people through in plain English how that's done. Randall, this has been a great conversation. I finish each episode with two questions, and I'm going to pose them here. Question number one is one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you want to share with our listeners. And question number two is how can people find out more about you and what you have to offer if they enjoyed this conversation and they're like, hey, I want to chat with this guy Randall and see if he can help me.
I think number one parting piece of information, and this goes for attorneys, even all practice owners I work with, um, find something that you love to do. Okay. We know you spend a lot of years obtaining your degree, whatever certification, but especially the world of law, it is probably larger than you think. So if you don't enjoy what you do, take time to research these different areas of law. You could be an expert witness, you could be a specialist within a major corporation. Find what you love, because I've seen many poor money mistakes or money habits due to the fact that they did not enjoy what they do. And if you do what you don't enjoy, you will suffer a lot of poor money habits. A great way to reach out to me if you like what I'm saying. If you're looking for a financial planner to take your practice to the next level, please look at my website. It's going to be www.deasilwm.com. That's deasilwealthmanagement.com. Or I'm on different social media platforms. Look up my name, Randall Avery, and I will be happy to schedule a 15-minute free consultation and help you guide you wherever you would like to go.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And folks, my team is going to share all those URLs in the show notes of this episode. Should be available in the description of your podcast player or at profitwithlaw.com. As I mentioned earlier, we have a 2-day workshop coming up. We're calling it the 100K per month workshop. And basically, it's geared towards firm owners who are not there yet, right? Like basically, you're trying to assemble a team. You're trying to figure out how to navigate this process. You've achieved 20, 30, $40,000 a month, but you can't get to that 85 to $100,000 a month range. And we're going to help you do that, but not just do it, but do it in 12 months. And it's really not that hard, right? But it does require you to have a plan of how you're going to do that. And that's what the 2-day workshop is for. Essentially, we take you through this entire journey of mapping out what that looks like and identifying where you should be putting your efforts over the course of the next 12 months, broken down into 90-day increments. So you're going to leave with an action plan, with a future-based profit and loss statement and balance sheet. You're going to know exactly if you need capital, how much capital you need, and have an idea of where you're going to get it from. We're going to work on your offer, your pricing, and make sure that it's top notch. We're going to identify the people, the staff that you need to put in place in order to make this happen, and when you should be looking for them and hiring them. So we're covering a ton of stuff, and you can check it all out on the sales page for the event. My team has been playing around with discounting the seats for this, so I don't know where they're at right now. So it's priced at 5,000. We have sold seats for 250, for 300, for 500. So there might be a discount at this time if you go and check it out. I don't know if there is one, and if there is one, it will have an expiration date on it. So you don't want to waste time and say, "Oh, I'll check it out later. It's coming up in the future." Our next one is in the last week of January, Monday and Tuesday. And I don't know when this episode is airing, so I'm recording this on January 6th. It could be that one happened already, but the website will be updated with the latest information for the next workshop. We're doing a series of these because I'm really passionate about getting people in a room and helping them to get started on this process. We have a coaching program called Law Firm Growth Elite. It's a year-long program, and we used to spend the first 90 days going through this process that we're going to do in 2 days. So essentially, you're going to get 90 days of the value of this coaching program in just 2 days in the room with me. And it's not an event where we're bringing in a bunch of guest speakers and we have a bunch of sponsors. No, we're spending time together working on your business. We've actually capped the seats at 20 in this workshop. So it's really small, intimate. We're going to make sure that you leave with your action plan that you need. So if this sounds like the perfect thing for you to get started with 2026 and going towards what you want to create, go to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026, profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. LFG stands for law firm growth, in case my letters are not coming out clear, but it's also in the description of this episode and on the show notes page of profitwithlaw.com. Folks, we're here every single Thursday with a brand new episode, and we will be back next week with another one for you. So make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player, YouTube channel, and we'll catch you then. Hopefully you'll tune in to our next episode. Take care. Bye for now.